You ready?
Yes.
I'd like to bring this meeting to order, Southern Shores Planning Board, August 18th, 2025. If you all will stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Nothing new going into the agenda on your end, is it, Wes?
No, sir.
Could I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Ed.
Second it.
Jan seconds. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Okay. We are electing officers again. Didn't we just do that a couple months ago?
Last year.
All right. Well, any process that we need to do other than I'll call for nominations?
Same routine.
Well, then I'll do just that. We will, I will call for a nomination for chairman.
I nominate Andy Ward as chair.
I second it.
Thank you all for that. All in favor of Andy Ward as chair for another year, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Vice chair, I would like to nominate Jan Collins for vice chair.
Second.
Second?
Any
No,
discussion?
no. All in favor, say aye.
No,
Aye.
no, no.
Come on, if you
One
don't like it, you
opposed.
switch out. We need women in leadership sitting up here, and I appreciate you saying.
I
Maybe.
just went to the town council 2 weeks ago and did a presentation to get them to give me their old police station from our dementia-friendly coalition.
Kitty Hall.
In Kitty Hawk, yes, I meant.
You can
And-
do it. Come on.
Oh.
All right. Congratulations.
Congrats to you both.
All right. Approval of minutes from May 19th, 2025. Did anybody note any corrections?
No, sir. I received a couple of responses and there were no comments on the draft minutes from the May 19th meeting.
Yeah, I thought they were extremely clean. Is this AI generated? Thank you, Sheila. They were excellent. Okay, public comment. Everybody
I'm
here
sorry, Mr. Chairman. We need to have a motion and vote
Oh, I'm
to
sorry.
approve the minutes. Yes, sir.
Getting anxious. Backing up, I'll move to approve tonight's or the May 19th, 2025 minutes. Is there a second?
Second it.
Jan seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none.
Thank you.
Okay. Public comment. No one signed up nor are here to comment. Must be getting bored. Old business is none. Now on to new business, ZTA 25-05. Wes, can you just give us a brief synopsis of why we are looking at this ZTA?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the board. Tonight on the agenda, you all are considering ZTA-2505, and that is a zoning text amendment submitted by the town to amend town code by adding section 1-14 and amending section 36-414A. As y'all probably recall, at the May 6, 2025 Town Council meeting, council directed staff to draft town code amendments to modernize the town code, and as a result, town staff is proposing the amendments before you all tonight. The proposed addition of section 1-14A establishes that if an application for an administrative development decision, map amendment, text amendment, or any other legislative development request is denied by the decision-making authority on any basis other than the failure of the applicant to submit a complete application, no application proposing the same or similar development on all or part of the same land or the same or similar text amendment shall be submitted within 1 year after the date of the denial, unless the decision-making authority finds one of a few reasons to waive that time limit. In addition, section 1-14B establishes that if an application for a quasi-judicial development decision is denied on any basis other than the failure of the applicant to submit a complete application, again, no application proposing the same or similar development on all or part of the same land shall be reconsidered unless the applicant submits a new application that demonstrates one of a few different scenarios that the decision-making authority can waiver the time limit. However, there's no time limit on this. My apologies. There's a time limit for 1 year for legislative and administrative decisions. For quasi-judicial, it's not a 1 year. There's no resubmittal, no reconsideration of a previously denied application. And then section 1-14C establishes that the zoning administrator or decision-making authority may at any time consider a new application affecting the same property as an application previously denied. And that is if the new application is one that differs in some substantial way from the one previously considered. It is worth noting, however, that current legislation moving through the legislature, HB 926, includes a proposed amendment to 160D-601, which states a development regulation or unified development ordinance may not include waiting periods, prohibiting a landowner, developer, or applicant from refiling a denied or withdrawn application for zoning map amendment, text amendment, development application, or request for development approval. The proposed amendment of section 36-414A, that's the section in the town code or the article that addresses changes and amendments. This would formally establish the procedure for submitting a text amendment. It establishes that an application has to be accompanied by the actual text of the proposed amendment in a format that's provided by the town. Up until now, we've always had an application, you have to pay the fee, but the ordinance doesn't address that you have to submit the actual language, and it doesn't address a format. So this would codify the requirement that, hey, we're going to give you this format, you need to follow this format, which is the format that you all are used to seeing, like the one in front of you tonight. So we would provide that format to the applicant and say, this is what you use, underlines, strike throughs, what have you, when they submit their application. So we determined that these proposed amendments are consistent with the town's currently adopted comprehensive land use plan, and we recommend approval of the application if or when the proposed prohibition on the waiting periods in HB 926 is passed in the legislature. Town staff will draft amendments to remove that proposed language in section 1-14 if it is adopted by the town council. And that would just be the 1 year limit or the prohibition on reconsideration of previously denied applications. That wouldn't apply to the text amendment formatting, just the time limit and prohibition on pre-submittal. That's the short and sweet of it, Mr. Chairman. If y'all have questions, I can try to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Wes. I had called Wes earlier this morning. I was a little confused, and I'm going to get him to shed some light on the ZTA itself on page 2. If you look at part 1, I was looking all over the place for part 1 to see where this plugged into our zoning ordinances, and Wes explained it to me, and I'm gonna let you explain it to the rest of the board. And maybe it will be helpful if you can,
I'll show it on the screen.
yeah, pull it up on the screen and show where it is in our
Code.
ordinances.
Yes, sir. So part 1 in the amendments is, it states that section 1-14, reconsideration of action on development and amendment requests be added as follows. So here you have on line 4, section 1-14, reconsideration of action on development and amendment requests. All this is underlined because it's proposed new language. So section 1-14 is in chapter 1 of the town code. Chapter 36 is zoning down here. Chapter 1 is general provisions, and it applies to the town code in its entirety. So when the town attorney, Lauren Womble, and I were talking about this, I asked her, when I drafted, I said, do you think that we should propose amendments to the applicable chapters, which would have been, putting it in the subdivision chapter, the zoning chapter, the Historic Landmarks Commission chapter, buildings and building regulations chapter, or can we just put it in just chapter 1 so that it applies throughout and just say at one time? And I was leaning that direction, and she agreed that we could insert that language or propose to insert that language in chapter 1 so that it would apply throughout. So we're not proposing to amend chapter 36 with part 1 of the ZTA. We're proposing to amend town code chapter 1. So you'll see, if you go to look on the left-hand side, chapter 1 has sections 1-1 through 1 through 13 currently, and we're proposing to add a section 1-14.
Right there at that point, the conflicts of interest.
Underneath it, it would
Yeah.
be, that's where the new section
Okay.
will go, and that would be titled,
Just ahead of chapter 2.
correct,
Right.
reconsideration of action on development and amendment requests. If adopted, it would say that right here underneath conflict of interest.
Yeah, I just couldn't figure out where it would plug in the list of ordinances, but
Yeah, chapter
is
1,
everybody
chapter
squared away
1,
with
general
that?
provisions, 2, administration, 3, 4, animals, and so on.
And Lauren was okay with that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because like I said, technically this would apply to Historic Landmarks Commission, zoning, subdivision. So,
Well, I don't have any heartburn about anything in here, really. I mean, we recognize that we need to streamline the process of repeated submittals of plans that aren't substantially different in scope. And that's what this does. I'm assuming that the decision-making authority spoken is the town council.
no, it depends on the type of decision. So administrative decision, that would be staff. Map amendment, text amendment, legislative, that's the town council. Quasi judicial could be you all, or is you all.
Right.
Well, it's you all or town council. Quasi judicial and legislative also applies to the Historic Landmarks Commission. Historic Landmarks Commission, they make recommendations on designating historic landmarks. That's legislative. And then they also they hold quasi judicial hearings like y'all do for appeals and variances. They hold quasi judicial hearings for certificates of appropriateness. So it depends on the type of development proposal, the
Okay.
development request.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking in lines of the landmark historic.
Yep. They have legislative and quasi judicial decisions as well.
So the decision-making authority is going to change
It depends on,
Yeah.
exactly.
because it's in here several times.
Right. And yeah, in one one of the initial drafts of this language said decision-making board, but I thought we agreed that it was better to be consistent with decision-making authority because it said it once or twice and then it switched to something else once or twice, but it needs to be consistent, and that's because it depends on the decision.
Right. So anything that would happen with the planning board would either be a quasi judicial for a variance or an administrative appeal.
So y'all would be y'all are the decision maker for quasi judicial matters.
Right. And-
Variances and appeals.
Right. Okay. Anybody?
Yeah, I just think there's a couple, I'm fine with what you're proposing to do. I think you just may want to work on some of the terminology.
Mm-hmm.
Like on page 4, for all proposed text amendments,
Uh-huh.
I don't think the term text amendment is really utilized in the code.
Amendment.
So if you go to page 3, reading before that, the town council may on its own motion
Oh, yes.
or upon motion or upon petition amend, supplement, change, modify, or repeal the
regulations.
regulations herein established
Gotcha.
or the maps which are part of this chapter. So what you may want to say
All
is
proposed regulation amendments to.
for all proposed amendments to regulations and then going back to section 1-14, that first paragraph, A, I think, and I was just looking, like in the code, under chapter 1, you define, development is defined and development approval is defined. And you may want to stick with using the terms that are currently defined because otherwise, what's an administrative development decision? And then map amendment, text amendment, or any other legislative development request. And then even the term decision-making authority, it may help to define what those are or use the terminology that's in there already. And that may need, require you to rework that paragraph a little bit. And I think, so if an application for administrative development decision is denied by the decision-making authority, no application proposing the same or similar development. I think the subject of that is going to be no same application. I don't think that the subject is a similar development. I think it's the same application.
So no same application proposing the same or similar development?
I think once you start to kind of unpackage that a little bit and use the consistent definitions, I think,
Well,
yeah.
okay, yeah, I appreciate comments. I did give that some thought, and if you read development approval, it states that the term development approval means an administrative or quasi judicial approval. So, I mean, I guess I see both sides of it. So 1-14, if an application for an administrative development approval instead of decision, that's where that would go, correct?
So scratch through decision
And
and go for
approval,
approval.
yes, sir. Map amendment, and you, instead of saying text amendment, you think we should be consistent with regulation amendment?
Yeah, and
Or any other legislative development requests is denied by the decision-making authority.
yeah, and I wonder if it may need some clarity because if you're reading this in a vacuum, it's outside of zoning, so you don't necessarily know that it's talking about the zoning map.
And it's not just, oh, you mean when you were talking about with respect to map amendment?
Yeah,
So you want to say zoning map amendment?
I would go back to the maps which are part of this chapter.
Yes.
You could
Zoning
say
map
the
amendment.
map, which is, or amendment of the map, which is part of
No, I think zoning map amendment will clarify it.
Yeah.
Fine.
Mhm. So put zoning in front of map amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
We made you chair.
Give you 20 push-ups.
All right, so we've got, instead of development decision, development approval, map amendment becomes zoning, map amendment, text amendment becomes regulation amendment.
In that same paragraph
That's
where
in-
you change the text amendment to regulation, should you also change accompanied by the actual regulation of the proposed amendment?
I don't
think
so.
I don't think you
Okay,
need
you
to.
can just use the text.
I think that still just applies
Just go the text.
later
Okay.
on. Yep.
Gotcha.
And then later on that same paragraph, line 9, where it states no application proposing the same or similar development, no same application
Right.
proposing the same or similar development. Does everybody agree on that as well? Okay.
Yes.
And then on page 4, it would, instead of saying for all proposed text amendments, it would state for all proposed regulation amendments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Consistency is, like I was saying earlier, consistency is key. I agree. Thank you.
Okay. Wes, I was just curious. I mean, I know it's kind of squishy, but materially different. How's that defined? Who gets to define materially different?
So again, I think it would come down to who was the decision maker. So you all could be making that decision, or the council, or administrative. Materially different, I would look for, I would say, significant differences. That's what I would aim for.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an interpretation.
Probably a little bit of legalese mixed into it.
Huh?
Probably a little bit of legalese mixed into it.
Should we make an attempt to do that at this point, or? I mean, I don't know. I don't think anything you put in there would really define what would be a difference.
I think it's really only going to matter if it's going to depend on how much discretion there is in the action. You know, if it's an administrative permit, it's, you know, completely objective. Presumably it was denied before because they don't meet the regulations. And if they then submit an application that meets the regulations, well, that's materially different.
Yeah.
Versus a case that's more subjective and we're able to apply discretion. I think the findings that you have in here are going to give enough input for interpretation and you know, review of each individual case.
Yeah, I don't have any suggested language, but just want to make sure we put the appropriate amount of teeth in what is materially different and how is it judged. And then in another iteration of that on page 3, in the paragraph C, beginning at line 23, at the end of that paragraph, it says it differs in some substantial way.
Yep. And
I mean,
Google AI says means significantly or considerably different. It implies a difference that is important, substantial, or has a noticeable impact rather than a minor or superficial one. This term is often used in legal and technical contexts. But earlier, significantly or considerably different.
Any thoughts on including any of that language?
I'd leave it,
Huh.
I'd leave it as is. I mean, because I think I think each individual member is going to evaluate it differently, but I think it's probably going to boil down to what was the basis for the original denial, and have they changed the project materially enough to make it, warrant reconsideration?
Yeah, like for an and I think an administrative example would be like if someone proposed an accessory structure with living space on it in the front yard that doesn't meet a setback requirement, then they apply for the same structure, but they move into the backyard and it meets the setback requirement. I would say that's materially different.
Mhm. Well, and this board's decided on, what materially different is in a, some action that we've had within the last year. So I guess it's just what a reasonable person would say is materially different. And the governing board or the decision-making authority would make their ruling. And if the applicant wanted to pursue, what is materially different, or then so be it.
I like the idea of the regulation too, if it meets, the regulation amendments, whatever. The new application that differs in substantive can use previously considered,
Mhm.
meets the current regulation. Just another verbiage, but I think it all means
Yeah.
the same.
And again, if the legislature adopts that prohibition, we will take it out. Mr. Zahner, Michael, have you heard anything more about that bill? I checked it earlier today, and there had not been any changes.
Let me check that one.
Is
No,
the
it's one we've been tracking.
Is could the scenario be that they water it down significantly and we only take out bits and pieces, or?
Yeah, so this one passed the House and did not pass the Senate. So under the rules of their adjournment, it would only technically be eligible, this bill, to be voted on in September, at the September, when they reconvene in September. They're reconvening essentially in every month, August to the end of the year. And between August and March, they can technically only vote on bills that have, that are either exempt from crossover rules, or only on bills that are in conference committee. So this one's not in conference committee. So technically this bill, they could only vote on it in September, but that doesn't mean they can't pull out pieces and parts and put it into other
Yeah.
stuff, which they do all the time. So,
Yeah, I don't think this was inserted until the 5th edition.
right. Yeah, there's, between this bill and what was 765 and is now SB 205, we know the patrons of those bills in the House really want to see something done, but not sure.
Well, stay tuned on that one.
Yes, sir.
Well, does anybody have any input on the new section that we're amending? Section 36-414, which is a motion to amend. Item A is the current language and stays in. I'm assuming B remains.
Tom, in section 36-414?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. B remains unchanged.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So we're just amending A, we're adding 1 to subsection A.
So 1 comes under A and before B.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And we said that one would be for all proposed regulation amendments.
A and A1, yes, sir, for all
Right.
proposed regulation amendments.
Anybody have any questions on any of this for Wes?
No, I would make a motion to to recommend amendment with those changes as discussed.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I'll second that. Any discussion on that? All in favor of Michael's motion, my second, say aye, raise your hand. Aye. Opposed, none. Okay. Wes, I did have one question. If the bill passes as written, where does that leave us as far as people being able to resubmit? Is it status quo where it is right now?
So
Or-
if it's adopted, then we would, the amendments tonight, as you all, this is ETA, as you all recommended with amendments, we'll present that to town council in a public hearing in September. And if they adopt it, then we'll enforce it. But if this language is adopted in the bill, then we will not enforce it. And then
Right.
we will subsequently amend the code to take it out.
Okay. All right.
I think one thing that's been pointed out to some of the patrons of this bill is what it would do to zoning enforcement. Because basically, this and some other provisions would make it impossible to enforce zoning violations because someone could be under a constant state of
Yeah.
filing applications.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at with Wes, but I mean, it would just,
Yeah, it would be, it could
They
be a
could
cycle.
churn it
It could be a
every-
cycle.
yeah,
Yep.
every month or possibly every 2 months, they could reintroduce it and it would just gum up what our town is trying to regulate in a orderly manner.
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay, well, moving on the agenda, public comment, once again, no one is here, signed up or otherwise. Going to planning board member comments. Start with Robert down at the far end.
I would like to personally thank the town and especially Cliff for getting the Trinity Juniper Bridge replaced so quickly. And I know that was not really on anybody's radar until all of a sudden it was. And the town picked it up and did a great job getting that thing replaced very quickly, I thought.
Yep.
So thank you all.
Good. Ed,
No?
I don't have anything. Jan?
No, just to ask Mike about the entrance.
Yeah, the entry corridor committee, I was going to give an update on that. We still continue to meet. We had a meeting last week. We have a meeting next week. Right now, we're putting together essentially part one of an ultimate report that would just cover kind of laying out the introduction, mission and goals and objectives, talking about the public engagement through the survey and the forum, and kind of distilling everything that we heard and then kind of summarizing conclusions from that first part. And that should hopefully be done probably late September. And we talked about, and I expect we'll talk about next week, is how to present that. Basically, make sure that our conclusions, that everyone agrees with them. And that kind of establishes kind of a baseline of, our understanding that we can then from there come up with recommendations for implementation. on anything. So yeah, we've been tasked, each of us, with writing different chapters or different parts of that chapter.
Hmm.
So it's in the back of my mind. I got to write that. So yeah, but what did we have? 542 survey responses, I
Something
think.
like that,
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, a really good number of survey responses, and yeah, I think I don't know that there was anything earth-shattering that we learned. It kind of confirmed a lot of what you could expect, and it's kind of distilling all of that down in a constructive way. Charlie stopped in at our last meeting. And, yeah, I know Robert's been in at least one.
I meant to come to this last one.
Well, thanks for plugging us
Sure.
in.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is there any kind of a promotional or marketing kind of bent to the committee and their intent?
Well, I think we have talked about, are there activities, promotional, branding, what have you, that would be something to come out of that? Is that, and, it's certainly been talked about from any one of the members that they feel like that is a piece of what we should be doing. And so, yeah, I would definitely expect that there would be some action or several actions to come out of this that would inform, branding and marketing. Yep, absolutely.
Good for the businesses.
Yeah.
All right, Wes, do you have any announcements?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman. Next regular meeting is scheduled for September 15th at 5 p.m.
Anything on the radar out there on that?
Not at the moment, no, sir.
Subject to change.
Subject to change.
Okay. Well, I will make a motion to adjourn. I know Tony always liked to jump in there and do it. We miss you, Tony.
Yes.
I'm sure he's watching.
Is there a second? To
I
adjourn?
second to adjourn.
Jan seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. All right. That was a good